optimism when she was 7.
Can I add a caveat to that?
Sure.
I didn't go to the big church. I went to the little church because we didn't like the big one very much. And we only went there on big holidays because the music was better.
Oh.
So I went to Hope Unitarian, not the big one.
Not the famous one.
Yes.
Okay. Well, in any case, at Hope, they found a refuge from the Bible Belt theology that surrounded them. They subsequently moved to Annapolis, where they found another congregation that also provided a rich spiritual life. She still calls that her home congregation. It was there that she served as a teen representative to the board, and later returned for a college internship, serving as a religious education coordinator. It was that same minister who later supported Kristin as she felt a call to ministry. She graduated from Antioch College in Yellow Springs, Ohio, whose first president, I would point out, was Horace Mann, the Unitarian abolitionist who is known as the father of public education in the United States. He's also famous for his words at the 1859 commencement, somewhat before Kristin's time. Be ashamed to die before you have won some victory for humanity. Antioch is a liberal arts college with a philosophy of experiential or hands-on learning, where students are expected to undertake projects of social justice, advocacy, community engagement, environmental justice, sustainability, global studies, just the kind of place you might expect to find Kierstin Famula. She subsequently earned a Master of Peace and Conflict Studies at the European University Center for Peace and Conflict Studies in Austria. She earned a Master of Divinity degree at Iliff School of Theology in Denver. From her childhood steeped in Unitarian Universalism, Kristin has continued a lifelong journey through UU congregations and communities across the United States. Religion has been for her a way to make sense of the world, and she loves the variety of ways in which people answer those big questions. She has explored places of worship around the world, and including once dragging non-UUs on a Unitarian pilgrimage through Eastern Europe, traveling to remote locations, she says, on bumpy roads to soak in the history of Unitarianism. She served congregations in Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, California, and of course here in Nevada. She's provided pastoral care at a hospital in Sacramento. She's engaged UUism at the denominational level as well, including the UU College of Social Justice, the Living Legacy Project, and as consultant to UU congregations. She is past president of the National Peace Academy. So with that, I give you Reverend Kristin Famula.
Yay! I'm so glad to be hanging out with you in this kind of way. Do we need more chairs in the back? No. We good? Okay. Thank you for inviting me to do a forum. This is so fun, and I love talking about this kind of stuff, so I am excited to be talking with you all about it. Engaging in the questions with you. Philip said that I was going to be sharing my vision, and that is not what I'm going to be doing. I am going to be asking you a lot of questions and asking you all to ask a lot of questions. So, if you are here for a vision, you might be disappointed. Let's see. I want to start first with, this past year we've been covenanting through collapse. I know you've heard that a bajillion times. And the reason we are covenanting through collapse is because when I came to this congregation, I had angst about the world. And we looked out at growing authoritarianism and just growing transformations all across the world. And I was like, gosh, what are Unitarian Universalists doing about that? And then you brought me on as your minister, and when I was having conversations with all of you, you were asking similar questions. Like, what are we doing about the world as it is? So this whole past year, we have really been asking this question over and over again. What are Unitarian Universalists called to do in this time that we're living in? And I don't know that we've come up with a bunch of answers yet, but we have been letting things emerge. What we did first was to look out at the world and name some of the collapses that we were seeing. So, you know, the environmental crisis, the economic crisis, the disintegration of partnerships around the world, all these kinds of mini crises that we're seeing that we were calling versions of collapse. And then as we were looking at collapses out in the world, we turned it into our congregation and Unitarian Universalism just a little bit. And we said, I wonder what the versions of collapse might be within our congregations as well. But we were really sort of focused on the outside, societal collapse. You might remember Philip, who's sitting right here in the front, taking the stewardship book when we were talking about doing our stewardship campaign and burying it in the compost. Do y'all remember that? He just took the book about how you're supposed to do stewardship and he buried it in the compost saying, this is outdated and we have to examine how we do things differently now. And part of that is because when we look out at the world, at societal collapse, it necessarily invites us to look in and say, okay, what about religious life? What about Unitarian Universalism? What about UUFNN? And what is it that we have to change about ourselves to respond to the world that we're living in now? So that's the question that we're going to ask ourselves today. And what I want to, what we're going to focus on is looking in at the ways that, the landscape. And I don't have answers. I'm going to say that again. I do not have answers. But we're going to look at the landscape together of religion and the landscape of Unitarian Universalism, and then we're going to think about it together. So that's the idea here. Leah, will you put up the first slide?
Yes.
Tracy and David, there are a couple of chairs up here.
I don't know, can we make it bigger or is that as big as it gets?
That's as big as it gets with the captions and Zoom
Okay,
slides.
okay. This is, how many of you saw my ordination or were at my ordination or, okay. So I got ordained about a year ago, a little bit over a year ago. And this is a real picture from my ordination. The crocodile and the moon it was imagery that we used to talk about the things that are real in the world and to not have a facade of what is real, not to let the facade of what is real be the thing that we get focused on. So the moon represented all the things that are real and important and the things that we should be focused on, what we sometimes call the really real. And the crocodile represented the things that we're trying to hold on to, the infrastructures, the models, the form of what is really real. So in this kind of example, you might think about what is really real about church life. Is it the Star King room that we're in? Is it having a beautiful office? Or is it the values and the ways that we are together in community? And for us not to get too focused on the form or the structure or the facade, if you will, of what is real. So this is my ordination, and then right afterwards, my friend who offered the sermon at my ordination sent me this picture. She said, your ministry has always been, and now you are getting ordained into these questions about how the world is ending, and you never offer up any answers, she said. All you offer up is questions. And that is my gift, I think, in a way, is to be able to say, okay, what is it? If the world is ending, what are the questions we need to be asking? And I have some for you. So that's what we're focused on today, is naming that, and I will tell you, first and foremost, I'm going to give you the landscape of religion and the landscape of Unitarian Universalism, and it is a gloomy one. It can be read as gloomy. And so we're going to hold that together, and instead of getting sucked into the gloom of it, what we're going to say is, okay, if this is the reality that we're faced with, what does it invite us to do? What questions can we ask? What new ways can we imagine things? So I'm going to give you like 40 minutes of statistics that paint the gloomy picture. And then we're going to look at it together with a different sort of framing. And so we're going to say the world is indeed ending in some ways, but ending doesn't necessarily mean death, but it does probably mean some sort of transformation and change. So that's the goal here. I want to invite us into some questioning, and I think I have another slide here. Well, the thing that I love the most, if Leah, if you'll change this one, is the idea that we don't necessarily have the answers. What happens is if we ask enough really good questions, the answers emerge. So this is a Rilke quote: "Be patient towards all that is unresolved in your heart. Try to love the questions themselves like locked rooms and like books that are written in a very foreign tongue. Do not now seek the answers which cannot be given you because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now." So that's the invitation for this morning. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is practice asking some big questions, and I'm actually going to ask you to answer this one bit because it's getting at the essence of the really real. So does everyone have paper? I actually have extra paper in the back. I'm going to hand it out. And I have pens too. And here's what I want you to write down. This is going to be super simple. I'm going to give you 30 seconds, and the invitation, 30 seconds, and the invitation is, if you're online, if you'll write this down first and don't put it in the chat quite yet. Okay, so here's the question that you're going to attempt to answer in 30 seconds. What is religion?
30 seconds.
Religion is for those who are scared of hell, and spirituality is for those.
Write it down. Write it down. What is religion?
Somebody has.
Could we pass those pens around?
Yes.
Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go.
You got lots of paper, lots of pens. The index cards are mostly for writing your questions down, but, you know, use the materials as you will. What is religion? And since we're still getting some materials out, I'll give you another 30 seconds. I know. These answers better be good. All right, we're not going to share these yet because we're going to have a couple times to turn to one another and share out that way. So I'm going to move us along, and you can keep writing notes as you go about what religion is. It's part of the point of this is to keep wrestling with these bigger questions today.
So we're answering them now?
Yes,
Oh.
go ahead and just that one.
Yeah.
Just that one question. What is religion? Just to get your brain thinking. Okay. Do you all know John Green? He does the podcast or the YouTube videos, the crash course videos. Have you ever seen those? Oh, I'm going to share so many good resources with you.
The
today.
admin does. She gave you a thumbs up.
Okay. These are free videos where they unpack, it's like educational courses that are meant to be free for everybody. And they do these courses for kids, and they also do adult versions of them. And in 2024, John Green in this crash course offered a crash course on religion. And he basically unpacked what is religion, what is religious life. He asked a bunch of questions and asked people to figure out, like, why do we care about what religion is and what is it? And I have another slide, if you can pop that one up. The basic answer was, it's complicated. He came to know.
Yes, it is.
So here, he here are some of the questions. This is I don't know how to do screenshots, so this is a photo of my computer, sorry. But basically what he was asking is, what even is a religion? When is yoga religious? When is patriotism religious? When is a sporting event religious? Right? And it's complicated. So it depends on who's doing the asking, what kinds of questions you're asking, who's in power, who it benefits, all these kinds of things. So it's really a very complicated thing. And even people that are doing their very best to try to figure out what it actually means, in order to figure out the ripple effects of what it means, don't have an answer. There's no good answer. There's lots of answers, is really what the answer is. So I think that's important to us when we're imagining the landscape of religion, the landscape of Unitarian Universalism, to just know that it is complicated. It's complicated. And Kevin said that one of my definitions has always been that religion is just a way that we answer life's big questions. In my mind, that's what religion is. It's how we answer life's big questions. But lots of people have lots of very different feelings about that, including depending on what your theology is. So when I was watching his video, I was like, is atheism a religion? It was secularism a religion? Like what? Like you could answer this question about everything, right? Anything could kind of fit into this definition of religion. Okay, so I'm going to ask you another question. And I want you to write this one down too, and yes, the answer to this one, and then we're going to talk to each other a little bit. So the next question is, what does it mean to be a Unitarian Universalist in Northern Nevada?
Could I say something?
Yes.
I feel like we're mixing up religion with spirituality here.
Ooh, I know, right?
And
Yes.
so religion is easy, it's traditional spiritual teaching. Spirituality is a much broader thing.
Yeah, so I'm going to say, write this down and answer my question, because I think you're right, and. Okay, so we're going to do this one. What does it mean to be a Unitarian Universalist in Northern Nevada? And if you are online, you can put the answers to this one in the chat, because we're going to engage with this one just a little bit more. All right, so what I'm going to have you do is, what we're going to do is we're going to practice asking questions so that we can get to the deeper, really, the deeper why of why we're asking the questions to begin with. And so what I'm going to have you do is pair up, and if you're online, you'll share in the chat and then engage with each other's thoughts in the chat. You're going to partner up, share your answer, and then the person that you're sharing with is going to ask you 3 questions, let's say. And these are not critical questions, like they're not meant to be mean. It's meant to be, it's meant to dig out meaning, like help them make meaning of what they're asking. So for instance, if you share a definition of what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist in Northern Nevada, then the person that you're sitting with might say something like, okay, well, who is it for? Or who do we serve? Or like those kinds of things. So you're helping the person get deeper and deeper and deeper about what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist in Northern Nevada. Okay? So pair up. We're just going to this is just practice for a couple minutes, okay?
You want to write any of that down?
Yes, write down whatever you want. This is all me.
Very well.
So I said it's that
Something that will explain to you whether you ever know what that is.
It's always dangerous to let.
We only got one.
Hopefully what this does is help us just all start asking the big questions, right? That's the whole point of this. If you will you write down the questions if you didn't get them written down? Because I love this stuff. I love asking questions, and I love wrestling with these ideas. So I want to collect all these kinds of things if you want to share them with me. So write them down if you didn't, or any bubblings that came up while you were having a conversation with someone. And so I want you to hold on to these questions. We might come back to them if we have time later. But first, what I want to do is paint a little bit of some of the statistics that are being thrown around right now, and give you a little bit of the landscape, first of religious life in general, and then of Unitarian Universalism. And what I want to say first is the statistics that I'm going to share with you come out of like hours and hours of looking at videos of different people talking about this stuff, and all kinds of reports and all kinds of interesting people talking about statistics and all these kinds of things. And as we all know, so first of all, it's hard to summarize. And second of all, it is all open to interpretation. So anything I share with you today, you're going to have all kinds of questions about, well, where did that come from? And everybody wants to critique statistics, which is great. But that's not actually what we're going to do today. I'm going to share some with you. I'm going to share some of how I make meaning of it. And I'm going to ask Kevin to share out all the resources. So you can look at all this stuff too. The whole point of this is just for us to explore together. It's not to come up with like a definitive answer to anything. Okay? So if you have questions like that, feel free to write them down. I'll share resources that I have or help answer some questions later, but I'm not going to answer them today. Okay, so with that caveat, what I want to first start with is the landscape of religious life in general, because there's sort of this both. I mean like the stories people tell. Anecdotal.
Oh, okay.
The people, especially religious leaders, are like, wow, religion is in decline. People don't come to church anymore or to their houses of worship anymore. And in general, religious life is transforming and changing and possibly in decline. So I wanted to look at that a little bit first and see what meaning I could make of it when I actually look at what the statistics say. Because I have tended to say that same kind of thing. Religious life is in decline, is how I've been talking about it. Or that it's an example of collapse. So I did a bunch of research. Lots of other people have done much more interesting research than what I did. And one video that I found seems to kind of encapsulate it the best. And I will share this resource with you. If you love crunching numbers in weird kinds of ways, this is the resource for you. This one was a conversation at Harvard Divinity School. And it was between the Center for the Study of, it was the Harvard Divinity School's Center for the Study of World Religions. And it was a conversation between a Pew Research Center director, who does a lot of number crunching, and also the editor of the World Christian Database, which also, even despite having that name, also does a lot of very interesting data crunching. It's a really interesting video. You all should look at it. And so they did a bunch of research between 2010 and 2020. That's the last comprehensive decade of research that they were able to study. But this video just came out last summer. And the question that they asked in this video was, is the world becoming more or less religious? Okay? And I take your point about spirituality. But is it becoming more or less religious? And I'm going to bring up the slide again. This is just the best. Their answer, it's complicated. These are like a 10-year study. Very thoughtful people looking at all the statistics. If you'll switch the slide for me. This is the final slide in their video. Oops, skip past that one, I forgot. Okay. This is the final one. Are more people leaving religion than joining it, is the question that they asked. And the first one said, what is religion? Literally, this is the first question that they asked in their final slide of whether or not we're becoming more or less religious. These huge people analyzing all this data. So there is sort of this perplexity about what it means to be in religious life, or spiritual life, if you want to define it that way. It's really sort of this conundrum that even our greatest thinkers around religion and data are still asking these questions. Did you have a question? Oh, okay. You put up a finger, I thought maybe. Okay. So I love this kind of stuff because this is the heart of it for me. It's like, what does it even matter how we define religion or whether more or less people are participating in religious life? Like, what are the deeper questions there? And what is the impact then on Unitarian Universalism? So there were a couple things that are trends that I think came out of this thinking. Do I have a slide for it? No, I don't have a slide for this. There are a couple trends that all these different statistics paint. One is, what they say is that the United States, at least, is becoming more secular. And we can find that however we want to as well. But the United States is becoming more secular. I think I do have another slide there, Leah, if you'll, there we go. Can you read that?
No.
Oh, well, crap. Okay. What it's showing is at the bottom in pink, I believe, is the unaffiliated. Now, one of the things that Pew Research and the Christian, whatever the database, whatever those two research centers are, they define unaffiliated in different ways and spiritual but not religious in different ways, and uncertain, like all these kinds of things are defined in different ways, which is why it's hard to track. But this one says that younger generations, which I think is the ones on the left side there, younger generations are increasingly identifying as religiously unaffiliated. So you can see there that even on the right side, which is where the older generations are, there's still quite a big percentage of people identifying as religiously unaffiliated. But then when you go all the way on the left side, that's a big portion of people who are identifying as religiously unaffiliated. So that's another trend. Another is that participation in religious life in general is transforming. And I have been saying that religion is in decline. And there are some statistics that sort of point towards that. It's this kind of statistics and others, and I will send the actual resources to you, but like our participation in religious life is changing so much that you could point towards a decline in participation. And again, nebulous. Can I?
U.S. or world, sorry?
Both, but United States is what we're focusing on right now. Yeah, both, but it gets more and more nuanced.
Okay.
Yeah. And going back to the question of like, what is religion?
Did you say we're talking about the U.S. now?
Yes.
Okay.
And then another trend is that there's a magazine called Comment Magazine that like looks at the landscape of things in the world. And one of the things that they say is that trust in institutions in general is eroding. Now you can imagine that that's true, right? Just the murmurings. But what they say is, like, what does that mean for religious institutions if, in general, we have less trust in institutions? And so if we're tracking the landscape of religious life and religious participation, that's one of the trends that we're watching, is that more and more and more that trust is being eroded. And so people aren't spending as much time with places that they don't trust, right? Okay, so this is religious life in general. The landscape is uncertain, unclear, but also shows this kind of downward trend in participation in the ways that we have imagined religious life in the past. Okay, I'm sure you could ask lots of questions, write them down on your cards. So then I'm going to go to Unitarian Universalism. And in addition to all these stats that we're hearing about religious life in general, you also add that Unitarian Universalists are really impacted by the life that the collapses that we've been seeing out in the world. So if you face outward and you're looking at authoritarianism or fascism or environmental collapse, all these kinds of things that we're worried about, that also weighs on our participation in religious life. And so just keep that in the back of your mind. So the Unitarian Universalist Association does a pretty good job of tracking our numbers. Each year we report our numbers of membership and things like that from our congregations to the UUA, and then they track it all for us. And then in 2025, they just put out an executive summary of what they call our certification report. And I think I have a slide for that if you can switch.
I'm worshipers.
So this is what the executive summary of the reporting says from our congregations. This year's data does not tell a sunny story for easy times. Continuing longer-term trends that put increased pressure on congregational budgets, staff, and systems. It also does not show any newly precipitous decline, nor does it show universal membership decline. Okay, but not sunny. Okay, I have another slide.
That's you.
Dang it, you can't really read any of these.
No, they're pretty small.
Okay, so as of September 20, I'll share all these with you too. As of September 2025, we have certified 1,078 Unitarian Universalist congregations. And what this slide is showing is basically that membership is stagnant. Like, it doesn't really show that there's lots of new communities, it doesn't show that there's lots of new members, but it also doesn't show that we are declining, which is what they've said. So roughly we have the same number of participants or members, or however you want to define it, in Unitarian Universalist congregations. So there's a couple of different things that the UUA has been pondering. One is religious education. You all have asked lots of questions about religious education in the past. Larger congregations seem to see a little tiny bit of growth in religious education. Smaller congregations, obviously, drastic decline. And overall, lots of decline in religious education. So the only growth that we see is in larger congregations that have more resources or more energy to put towards this kind of thing.
More kids to actually.
And more kids, yeah, more critical mass. So one thing that they started, yes?
So where do we fit in that spectrum? I'm guessing we're sort of right in the middle.
Yeah, decline. Membership stagnant, I
In
would
terms
say.
of size.
Well,
So
I'll go to
large or
sizes.
small?
I'll go to sizes in just a second.
Okay.
We are what they would call mid-size, but I'll show you that in just a second. I think I have a slide for that. One of the things that they start, you know how we're talking about what are the right questions to be asking. One of the things that UUA has been tracking is religious education enrollment. So it used to be that every single year in the fall, we would sign up all of our kids for religious education and they would all register. And then they would all participate in Sunday school classes, right? That was what we tracked. And then they were like, that's not actually how young people are participating in programming at Unitarian churches anymore. So this year, in addition to saying what is your enrollment in religious education, they also tracked a different number of involvement in religious education. And what they said was enrollment was just under 20,000 young people, but then they tracked another 8,000 people that were participating. And that's like summer camps and things like that. They have different definitions for how people participate, which is a fascinating thing because if we're, in my mind, if we're tracking how people participate in religious life, we're still using mechanisms for tracking an old model of what we used to do. So it brings up all these things for me, like what is success? Why are we tracking these things the way we're tracking them? These are the kinds of questions I think we should be asking. And our success measurements don't quite measure the things that are happening yet. So there's a disconnect there, and then there's also the question of like how we should be doing things in the future. Okay, but we'll get there. Okay, and then the other thing to know is Unitarian Universalism is such a small percentage of the way that people participate in religious life that we never get included in any of the tracking of religions in the world.
We're another.
We are other, Dad, we are other. So, last month, this is wonderful. Do you all track Ryan Burge? Burge, I don't know. He's a professor at the Danforth Center on Religion and Politics at Washington University, and he puts out graphs about religion. And they are fascinating and wonderful, and you love this kind of stuff. And just last month, this is so great, or at the beginning of this month, he did one on Unitarian Universalism because people have been asking. I will send you the information. It is fascinating and interesting. It doesn't take the stuff that we already know from the UUA to that much of an extreme, but it's fascinating to hear somebody else who's not the UUA analyzing our data. And then he just puts together interesting statistics. So, Leo, will you pull up the next slide? This is one of his.
Whoa.
Oh, I want you all to see these. I'll send them to you. All right, so this is statistically the arrow way at the bottom. That's Unitarian Universalist. This does not include the Catholic Church. I don't know why, but this is like all the way down there at the bottom is Unitarian Universalist. So he says, this is just these interesting comparisons that we don't always get. He says that for every UU in the United States, there are 60 Southern Baptists, 30 Jews, and 300 Catholics.
For each one.
For each one.
For every one Unitarian Universalist. Right? Just for perspective.
32.
And then I have another slide. We'll see if we can see this one any better. This one you can see better.
Yeah.
Okay. UUA membership. This is another one of his slides. And in this one, you can kind of see the gradual decline, but also like sort of static 2024, 2025. He says, so this is losing 66,000 UUs in the last decade, which is about 26%. So in the last,
That contradicts other things you said.
that we're declining,
That UU membership has been.
and now it's stagnant. But you can sort of see that, 186 to 184 in the last 2 years. But otherwise, it's been a pretty steep decline in the last decade. Go for it.
I just want to clarify, you can be Unitarian and also be a Jew and also be anything.
That's true. Will you write that question down and we'll think about how those are measured? Yep. What is, yes, they're big questions, right? Okay. The one thing that he pointed out that I had not been paying as much attention to is in 2016, UUs went from 151,000 members and 99,000 friends for a total of 200,000 to 184,000 today, and that the membership stayed relatively the same, and that the friends category dropped by about a third. Interesting, right? I don't know what to make of that, but there's something to make of that. And then I have one more slide for you, and this is just.
Members are stable, just the friends drop.
Oh, okay. This is I didn't actually. I don't have notes about this one, but you can see here. This is the size delineations of congregations. Most of them are very small. If you look at this, 61 to 100, 30 to 60, 1 to 29. I mean, that's a huge percentage of them. There's 3% of our congregations that are above 500. So then if you look, we're in the 151 to 250 category, which used to be solidly mid-sized, but you can see that really it's the smaller congregations that are growing.
So which category are we in?
What do we have now? 187 or something like that? We're right in
I can't
that.
read it, so what?
Oh, I'm sorry, so that's the third line down, for third bar down,
Okay.
15% of congregations.
There's nothing on there that says necessarily growing, it's just what it is.
This is what it is right now, yes. But what they do say is that there's more and more small congregations. So those are the ones that, so the very small are dying. They don't have the resources, they don't have the ability to maintain. And the very big ones are also struggling. And it's kind of the smaller category that are like holding on. Okay, so then one more slide. I think this is some of the takeaways from this little chunk. Oh, I don't know what this one is. He has all kinds of great graphs. I wanted to share them with you. Okay, here we go. Takeaways. Okay, here's what Ryan Burge says, who does these graphs on religion. He said that we are mainly older, white, well-educated folks who tend to lean towards the left side of the ideological spectrum.
Yeah.
And he says that we compare with other groups that have a nice core of strong givers, and that our long-term asset portfolio is incredibly strong, which means we have a bunch of money but not a bunch of people. Accurate. He also has these wonderful graphs of where our churches are located, and they are located in only left-leaning areas that are highly educated. I mean, it's really interesting. He maps them all. It's beautiful. One thing we know is that our definition of congregations are changing. The way we do ministry is changing. I put an Ogden example there. A lot of you know that I served the Ogden congregation for almost 2 years. And as their remote minister, they're a very tiny, like 35 member congregation. And so people are exploring different ways of doing ministry already. Most congregations that size cannot afford a minister, but they could because they had an endowment. But the way we do ministry, like my role of minister is different, and the way we do ministry and the way we define congregations, all different.
Different in what way?
Lots of ways, many ways.
Write down the question.
Yes, write down the question.
It's complicated.
It's RE participation is down. It's slightly higher in larger congregations, but the way we do religious education, totally different. There is significant financial strain on congregations. The UUA reports that at a denominational level, our debt is down and our endowments are growing. But otherwise, congregations are very, very financially strained, and so is the UUA. Okay, and then here we go. Over half of our member congregations have less than 100 individual members. Over half of our member congregations have less than 100 individual members. They also mentioned that one of the stats we can see is that we are very committed to justice, but we react to the world around us with great faithfulness and scattered strategy. I think that feels true here. So they're looking at tools for that. And then there's this idea of what does membership mean? What do friends mean? What does it mean to agree with our values? And this person who does graphs says, I have a sneaking suspicion that a whole bunch of Americans like the idea of Unitarian Universalism, but just can't or don't want to join a congregation. We know that, right?
Yeah.
So what does that mean for us when we're asking big questions about who we serve and why, right? Okay. So, how much time? Oh my God. I'm going to share all these stats with you. They're fascinating. Go ahead.
Do we track new arrivals, new visitors?
We do. I don't have stats on that, but write that down and I'll see if I can
that's
find
the most
resources.
important thing to keep track of is how are we attracting new people?
Right. So, and then I would ask to that question, if we're thinking in terms of questions, what does it mean to attract people? Why are we measuring how we attract people? Does it mean to the building? What do these things mean? Okay, so that's where we're going to go next. So what I have found when I share stats like this is we ask questions like that, which is a wonderful question. And a lot of times what we're asking the questions for is to either deny or rationalize the reality of what's happening, to rebel against the reality of what's happening, and I think we do all these things, or to find easy technical fixes. And I'm gonna call out a lot of people in the room right now, because one of the biggest suggestions I always get is, let's put an ad on NPR.
Yes, yes.
But that's a very small technical fix to the kinds of big transformative things that we need right now. And I agree, we should also be advertising on NPR. And, right, like that's not gonna fix these statistics of decline in Unitarian Universalism. We have to be asking totally different kinds of questions.
And individuals have done that. When
And
your pledge
yes.
is big enough, you get a section.
Yes. So and there's other ways of saying, so like we really want to say, well, there are lots of ways of interpreting this data, and what about the newcomers, and whatever, right? So we want to kind of like push away the statistics and make sense of them in a way that doesn't feel like the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northern Nevada needs to change. But I think it does. Or we want to be like, UUFNN is an outlier. And that is also true, right? Like our stewardship team, where's Pete? We did really fascinating research on this congregation. And in a lot of ways, UUFNN is an outlier. I don't know how long we will be an outlier. So we still have to look at the statistics and say like, okay, what do these trends say for us? And what is it actually, in a good way, what does it invite us into? Because we can imagine ourselves differently. And some of the other things we do is like, okay, I think about, wow, did you see how non-affiliated people are growing? The religiously unaffiliated are growing. And doesn't that mean for us, well, obviously they're all UUs. If we could just get them to our church, then we would grow again and everything would be saved, right? But people are not coming to UU churches, right? So like we see how all these different things go together. The other thing, and I'm not going to have time for this video, even though we did all this dang research on trying to figure out how to play it, but I'm going to send you a video that is wonderful. The other thing we always say is we need more kids and families. If we just had more kids and families on Sunday mornings, we would be doing great. And it is not true. And also, they don't want to show up on Sunday mornings.
That's right.
So the video that I really wanted to show you that I'm not going to have time to, but I will send you, is, so first of all, the age disparity in our congregations. I think we all see that, right? And are we giggling about that? So one of the things that this video I'll send you shows is it just says so clearly what we've known for so long, is that the demographics of who can participate in church on a Sunday morning are drastically different. And it also tracks how volunteerism has changed. And one of the things they say is it used to be that a family, one person in the family could work and the other person didn't have to work, and you could stay at home and be a parent. That is just not the reality anymore. That both people, if you're in a traditional kind of relationship, quote unquote traditional relationship like that, both people in the relationship have got to work, and still they are going to be drastically in debt. That's one of the things we know. And it also means that the entire way that we parent kids now has changed, even from like the 80s when I grew up. So we don't parent kids in the same way anymore. We are taught to be much more hands-on. We've learned about the way our brains develop, and parents are much more hands-on with their kids now. And what they have said is that, say it again.
I said, I wish that were true, but I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. So we will, I'll send you this video. It's fascinating, and then you can send me all your questions. But what it tracks is that the average income that people have is about the same. The debt is way bigger. It's now 175% of annual income. And that the biggest pieces of that debt is housing and student loans. Both parents have to work. And what used to happen is that parents could dedicate a lot of time to volunteering, not just in religious education programs, but in church life in general. And that now who needs to volunteer in churches is retired folks. That we are absolutely dependent on retired folks. And that retired folks are getting burned out and can't do that anymore. They don't want to. And also, the demographic is shifting, and it's mostly retired folks. So like you can see what that does to our churches, and we feel it, right? We know this. Okay. The other thing that this report in this video says is that the Surgeon General literally put out a report in 2024 called Parents Under Pressure. And the Surgeon General report said that there are 3 things that we do less nowadays, that parents do less. We do less sleeping, less time with partners and friends, and less adult leisure time. And adult leisure time is where all the volunteering came in. And then what they say is all this was true until 2019. For like a decade, they tracked this until 2019, and then what happened?
COVID.
And then we came back after COVID and pretended that everything was different, but it was exactly the way it was in 2019, but now with trauma and stress from parents needing to 24/7 be teachers and parents and all the things of their kids and live with them in that way, and all the trauma that was put on all of us. So church life just is different in 1,000 different ways. Okay. So one of the things that I think is wonderful about the video I was going to show you is they say that the questions that we get all the time are, where are all the kids? Where are all the families? What we need is kids and families. And the reason they say that is actually a little more subtle, and it's with this context of because they're going to save Unitarian Universalism from dying. Like we want kids and families because we know that we are all getting older, and we know that we don't want Unitarian Universalism to just age out. But that feels like the fear, right? Okay. Yeah, I suck at time management, y'all. All right, I wanna offer up some questions again. And I want to offer up some of my questions. Can you change the slide? Oh, this is Surgeon General. Okay, keep going, keep going. That's the video I will send you. Okay, this is an interesting, this is a congregational consulting group. They say, what if the model for church has run its course? Perhaps we've arrived at a time when we can begin to think differently. And I would say, absolutely have to think differently. Okay, next slide.
What was that? Kristin, I just missed your last comment. You would say absolutely.
Has to change,
Has
do
to
things
change.
differently.
Okay.
Okay, so here's my question for you all, and if you will just turn to a neighbor. What does this make you think about? What questions does it bring up? And then if you'll go to the next one, I'll just share some of my questions, and this is just like the very scratching the surface.
Yeah, what is true?
And then I will close out so y'all can get going. So, you can't read the questions?
Yes, I can.
Nope.
Some of us can.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. If I was in the back row, I wouldn't be able to either. I'll start from the bottom. Who are we here for? Who do we serve? Is Sunday morning the only time to get everyone together? Do we serve, is it the people who are members here that we serve? Is it, what is church? Is it the building? If so, why? If not, why not? Why do we care if people join? Is it only because we need their money? But seriously, right? That's the question. Why do we care? Who do we serve? How do we measure success? What even is success? Why do we model in some sort of capitalist thing like that, defining it as numbers?
Profit.
Why do we care if people join? So turn to a neighbor, ask each other questions. Don't give answers. Ask each other some big questions and write them down. And then I have a couple closing thoughts.
What is I don't know I don't know anybody. I'm talking. But there's no position for it.
I think that
Write them down. If you haven't. I will share them in your chat. Write down the questions that you have. Write down the things that you're exploring with each other. So the Unitarian Universalist Association has been exploring these questions also. And I want to celebrate us because our whole covenanting through collapse this past year has really been living into these questions in a proactive kind of way. And UUA is doing something similar now called Meet the Moment. And they're asking similar questions too at a denominational level. And so Meet the Moment is kind of similar to covenanting through collapse, except we're taking a semi-different lens. And theirs might sound a little bit more positive. I think we're leaning into the like, all right, it's collapsing.
Well, if the building's on fire, let's not go around the bush around it.
Exactly, yes. So Meet the Moment is forming what they call wave cohorts. And this is groups of people analyzing different aspects of what I would call collapse, religious education, membership, things like that. And they're doing their own exploring and then offering up some of the reflections that they've had based on their exploring. So I'll keep offering up some of those resources to you, but they're open to the public. So look up Meet the Moment, I'll share the link with you. You can do some of your own research around that and see if it spurs any of your own creativity about here at UUFNN. Our UUA president, Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt, also offered a 30, 40-minute
very good
presentation that I will also share to you. It's really sobering, but it's also very thoughtful. It's like, yeah, just like what we're saying, here's the moment. And the beauty about knowing what the moment is that we are not waiting for 20 years till we all die off and Unitarian Universalism goes away. We're like, all right, cool. We got something to offer. We know that there is value here. How are we going to shape shift a little bit to meet the moment, to covenant through collapse, to really be here in this space without pretending that it's not happening. I keep thinking about this thing.
Right.
Right? We're not doing that. We are looking out and we're saying, what is the moment that we're in and how are we going to meet it? And what I want you to know is no one knows what the answers are. I don't know what the answers are. Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt does not have the answers. The UUA does not have the answers. But we are all trying to be really thoughtful about asking the right questions.
I have the answers, you can just come talk to me.
Okay,
Thanks, Bill.
talk to Bill. So what we're going to be doing, this past year we asked a lot of questions, and we kept shape-shifting our questions. So asking the right questions. So we're not asking anymore, how do we get young people to show up on Sunday morning?
Right.
And we're also not asking, how do we offer the exact right programming for young people? Because we are shape-shifting our questions. So that's what I want us to get better at, is honing those questions, so we're asking the right questions. And I don't know what they are yet. The other thing we're going to be doing a lot of this coming year is experimentation. You all, for example, the service that we just held in Carson City. Part of the reason we held that service was to shake it up and be like, what happens if we do it outside of our building? What does that mean for us? What questions does that evoke for us? And it's not just because we're not just a Reno-based congregation. It's because what does it mean to decenter our congregation, the building? What does it mean to decenter the building? What does it mean to address the people in Carson City as opposed to the people here? I don't know. What questions does it bring up for us? So we're going to do more of that. The other reason we're experimenting like that is because transformation hurts sometimes. And what we have to be able to do together is actually hone the capacity to be in the discomfort together, because otherwise we get we need to have some sort of stability at church. But it is inherently not stable right now in all aspects of our life. And so what we're trying to do is come together and be like, no, we got each other. And we're going to do some experimental things that feel uncomfortable, and we're going to be like, oh look, we did that, and we're okay. We're okay.
Well, I have to disagree with you.
Okay, well, can we disagree after?
No, I need to do it now, because you're saying that we're not comfortable doing that. I say that you church is very comfortable.
Okay.
People who do that, but
Thank
we
you.
need the opportunity to do that.
Okay.
I've been here coming for the last 6 days, and I have found no way to make friends here because we have no coffee hour. When I was at the last churches, we had a big coffee hour.
Will you write down that idea again for us? Because we want to capture all kinds of things like that. I agree. Can I finish and then keep talking? Write down your questions. Write down your comments. Write down the questions and the comments, because I'm already going over and I realize that. We are going to do more experimenting this coming year. And we're going to do more capacity building for being with the discomfort. Some of us are already comfortable. Many of us aren't, actually. I get comments from people all the time that are actually feeling really uncomfortable about the ways that we shapeshift and what that might mean for us. Okay. I'm going to share all these resources with you. I want to hear your thoughts and impressions and opinions. I want to hear your differing opinions.
I
want to
have
hear
one
all of
more
it.
important question.
Okay.
You keep talking about collapse.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what this collapse is.
Let's talk about it. You haven't been here for the whole year, and we've been exploring collapse, so let's keep talking about it together.
When? When did we do that?
Can you send me an email, and we'll set up a time to meet?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about it today, but we're gonna leave.
We're out of time. We're out of time.
Sundays are very weird times for a minister in a congregation, especially when they're also doing forum. I'm going to offer you closing words so we can all get out of here, okay? Some of you know that for the past 6 or 7 years I've been doing consulting work in the Pacific Central District, which is now the Pacific Western region. And one of the things I've been doing is helping congregations and UU communities vision multi-generational futures. And we actually brought that program here for our board 2 years ago to explore what we might vision outside of the way we currently imagine Unitarian Universalism. And after all the retreats that we do, we write a poem based on the words that people have said to us. And the one I want to read you is a poem that emerged from our younger adult retreat, which Leah was actually at. And the reason I want to offer this one to you is because that is one of our biggest growing religiously unaffiliated groups of people. So I want to offer you up their wisdom. And the poem is called The Religion of My Dreams. And it was collectively written. So this is my closing words to you. The religion of my dreams from the younger adults in our denomination. The religion of my dreams is ancestral. The religion of my dreams teaches me how to die. The religion of my dreams is we. Moss, dirt, bones, come to this. The religion of my dreams brings it forward, grows, communicates through the noise. It gathers around fire and is willing to change the world. It is real difference in real dialogue. The religion of my dreams is safe to enter and safe to leave. The religion of my dreams is a place where what is hard and monstrous and disruptive has value. It pushes us to change in ways that might seem scary. The religion of my dreams talks about the world honestly. It is a place to go out from, a place of challenge and rest. The religion of my dreams knows what it is holding in common and why. The religion of my dreams is where we are held together while we transform. It knows how to live in connection without control. It is a place where people know each other, really, know the land, and we practice committing to a place and a people. The religion of my dreams has teeth. We bite into it all together. It is a place where it is all held. Birth, death, love, turmoil, and we've learned how to hold it well. The religion of my dreams happens late at night when you are tired, but you are awake and you keep talking with someone, even when you cannot see them. The religion of my dreams is pretty, like moss. Thanks for bringing the questions, y'all.
Well, this sounds like a conversation that should be continued. The next Sunday forum is actually our brainstorm on July 16th, a Thursday, in this room, 5:30. I have to check with the boss. All right, so Come, tell us what you want to hear at Sunday Forum in the coming fellowship year.
Taco